Hey loves, how are you? I hope you're doing well. It's a beautiful day. It's chilly. I love it. I love the chill. It's been an interesting few days, and there's been some tragedies locally that have resulted in a family losing their two sons to a tree falling on their trailer. Very tragic. My heart is broken for that family. I can't even imagine. I always say that, no parent should outlive their children. And a young girl took her own life. And life is so fleeting. I can't stress this enough. It's a little challenging for me sometimes, even in raising my own girls, because they'll sometimes feel like I'm guilting them. And that's never my intention. But having the unique life that I had and losing so many family members throughout my life from a very young age, I just see life differently. It shapes you and it changes you. It's going to. How could it not? And it's so important to really live and find things to be joyful about and find silver linings and cultivate gratitude. And there's always hope. And it's easier said than done. But our time is so limited here. And I hear stories like those two families, and I think, God, how much time do we waste in worry and fear? And there are reasons to feel sad. There are reasons to want to give up, or you feel like you want to give up. Life is hard. No one ever said it was going to be easy. And there are a lot of people that have complex and severe challenges. Maybe it's the way that I grew up, the people that raised me, the mindset that existed. I'm sure that had something to do with it. But I think what I realized, my little epiphany in the last week of my life, is that every family that I know that raises their kids in faith, a belief in God, that there is a higher power, they have better outcomes. They have a different outlook. And I know that I might get a lot of pushback about this, but I was out of school yesterday for work. I'm going to miss these kids. In 2 weeks is our last trek with them, and I just adore them. And I was doing the 5-finger contract with them, which you can look it up. I'm not going to get into it. But the palm of the hand can be, there's all different takes on it. But I think I asked them what they valued most. We were talking about values. And 2 of the kids said God. And those kids, we have to do assessments after every trek. We have to do SOAP notes. And those kids are always visibly and so socially different. They are almost always happier, respectful, kind. They are, and the kids that I witness being moderately to severely disordered, there is no foundation. There's no sense of groundedness. There's a lack of hope. There's an increase in despair. I'm seeing this consistently with every kid that I work with. Every time a child says, and God will come into the conversation almost always, no matter what we're talking about. Somehow a kid will say, my goal is to pray more, or my goal is to get closer to God, or what are you grateful for? God and my family. When I became a yoga teacher, my mother had passed. Her faith was fierce. I always butted up against it. Also because I was a language arts major and I studied the Bible both figuratively and literally. And I had questions. I was doing my job as a kid, really, pushing up against those boundaries, asking questions, wanting to know more. And when my mom passed, I moved away from the faith. I talked to my kids about God. I never not believed in God. My second didn't make all her sacraments, stopped going to church, stopped praying together. And I can see the difference. And it's my biggest regret. I'm the type of parent, when I realize that I made a fundamental mistake, I go right to my kids. Like, I had this epiphany. I'm in this place in my life and I totally messed up. And I wish that I gave them that foundation, because although I talked about God and I would say, well, I'll pray for that, or, they saw rosary beads in the house, and it doesn't matter, Christian, Catholic, I don't care. I'm talking about any faith, just having that foundation. It's so strengthening. It's a different mindset. It eases so much anxiety and strife when you really, truly believe that you're not alone, that somebody has your back, that you are deeply loved and nurtured and protected and always being guided. And I think as a country and a culture, we have moved so far away from that we're seeing the repercussions. And I have not felt this strongly about this topic than as of late. Because what I'm seeing with my own two eyes and hearing with my own two ears is undeniable. It's undeniable. So we've replaced God with the universe and these universal truths, and it's not the same. It's just not the same. So as much as I moaned and groaned and complained, and if we skipped church, we got grounded, I see the relevance in that. I see the purpose. I get it. And I've been really thinking about my brother a lot. For those of you who don't know, I lost my brother 19 years ago, very tragically. My brother was an explorer and an adventurer. He traveled all over the United States, loved British Columbia. He was out there a lot, but he spent a lot of time in Tahoe. He hit like all the national parks. And he was a expert snowboarder and skier, avid hiker, and just loved to travel. He was never home. He was always doing something. Super kinesthetic guy. And he did stupid shit, like he totaled 4 cars and he crashed his motorcycle a couple times. And like, we never knew with him. He almost died in 2 avalanches out in British Columbia because he would heliboard. So you just never knew with him. And he died hiking of all things. And it wasn't like he got caught in bad weather or anything like that. He just lost his footing at Acadia National Park in Bar Harbor, Maine. And I think he fell like almost 60 feet. I don't know. It's so much. I love his story because his story made me who I am today. I learned to live life fully through his tragedy. And what a shame, what a shame. But that's really what happened. And I took all that grief and I transformed it into the life that I live now. And my brother found God before he died. I love telling this story. It was about a year or so before, and he moved away from the Catholic faith. My brother had a lot of addiction issues and lived more selfishly. And he found God and he became like a totally different person. I saw the transformation. I saw this guy so happy. He had a sense of belonging and community. And he was volunteering in a soup kitchen. And he moved away from alcohol, and I think he even quit pot completely. And he was going to church every week. And I was so happy for him. And I fully believe, 100% convinced, that God prepared him to transition, which was another thing that helped me accept and acclimate to the tragedy of losing him. So that wasn't an accident. My brother became stronger and more stable and grounded in his faith. And it was a bit of a point of contention in my family because my mother wasn't thrilled, It was like, well, why not just go back to Catholicism? And he didn't want to. So it doesn't matter how you find God or what faith you believe in. So interesting too how we all argue with each other, right? Like Christians will say Catholics aren't Christian, and other Christians, they fight with one another because, their Bible or their faith is the only faith. And I mean, do you really think God cares about all this? I mean, really, especially in the world we're living in now? Not a chance. I think one of the biggest scams, one of the biggest agendas, I don't know what the right word is, was really pushing people away from faith and God. It drives hope. I mean, even AA, there's better outcomes in believing in that higher power and not feeling like it's all on you. I mean, it's on you to be a good person. It's on you to follow the rules, the commandments, the steps, whatever. That's all on you. But to understand that you're not alone. And I think about these kids who they're fumbling and they're stumbling, almost feeling, blindly. And I really feel it's a lack of that type of stability that is unique. Yes, the family dynamic is just completely, it's struggling, right? There's been a total breakdown of the American family for sure. We have an increase in fatherless homes, increase in divorce. or both parents working, kids being raised by strangers. And none of this is to make people feel guilty. None of this is a blame game, but we've seen a total collapse of the standard American family, and it's to a detriment. And then you throw in a horrific food system, you throw in social media, video games, being connected all the time, and we're just seeing an absolute recipe for disaster. But what I see in these kids, what I hear coming out of their mouths, there is so much more talk of morality, character, integrity, doing the right thing out of the mouths of the kids that have that type of foundation with God at the center. To me, it's just proof of how much God is needed, how necessary it is to believe in something greater than you, and to hold yourself to a higher standard. And some people are able to do that without any type of religious background or belief in God, but I would say it's rare. You tell me what you think. Love you to pieces.